So the two conceptions that he is talking about, and with the two conceptions of the genre, the first one he said is pseudo-Platonic, pseudo-Platonic conception of genres. Because what is pseudo-Platonic conception of genres? It is considered that all the genres are existing earlier or prior existence of the genre is there, and it is an independent of creation. This is what the pseudo Platonic conception. And this pseudo Platonic conception confuses everyone. If a new form like sonnet is introduced, then the pseudo Platonic conception get confused, because as according to this conception, that everything, as we have seen when we are discussing about Aristotle's poetics, at that time we have seen how Plato is talking about. And that's why if it is already existed, then if some new genre is coming, it is getting confused that how and where it should be placed one. And that's why Fry says that the truth is lying in between. The other is that pseudo biological conception. One is pseudo Platonic conception, second one is pseudo biological conception. And this pseudo biological conception, what Fry is trying to clarify, Fry is saying that this pseudo biological conception, which is evolving species, which is trying to make a survey and find out the development of the form. And after the development of the form, this new form is being created. This is what biology used to talk about with the theory of evolution. So it is talking somehow like evolution takes place and every development is simply going on because of this evolution. Fry is talking about these two conceptions which are prominent in criticism. And that's why he used to point, that's why he used to tell that in between these two conceptions of genre, one is pseudo-Platonic, one is pseudo-biological. With these two conceptions of genres, he's saying they are obviously fallacious. They are not reaching where they have to. And that's why we need to inquire. We need to understand for the origin of the genre. And to understand the origin of the genre and turn first of all to the social conditions and the cultural demands which produced it. Because the genre which is produced, the genre which is there, if you want to understand the origin of genre, inquire the origin of genre, you need to understand first the social condition and the cultural demands that produced it. In other words, you need to understand the material cause for the work of art. What is the material cause? Why? What are the social conditions? What are the cultural demands that this work of art is produced? Now, if you are doing this, then this leads us into literary history. This literary history, my friends, differs from ordinary history. It is not ordinary history. It is not like ordinary history. It differs from ordinary history. It contains categories: Gothic, Baroque, Romantic, and like all the cultural categories which are little useful for any ordinary historian. Ordinary historian will not use these categories which literary history can give us. Most literary history does not get as far as these categories are concerned. But even so, we know more about it than about most kinds of critical scholarships. We know more about it. But we don't know more about the critical scholarships. Fry is trying to bring out all those things. The historian treats literature and philosophy historically, and the philosopher treats history and literature philosophically. And the so-called history of ideas approach marks the beginning of an attempt to treat history and philosophy from the point of view of an autonomous criticism. We start to treat it like criticism, philosophy and history, or history of ideas. I says, if you are doing so, if you are doing it to inquire the origin of genre, still we feel there is something missing. There is something not what we are expecting. We say that every poet has his own peculiar formation of images. But what if so many poets use many of the same images? Because what we talk about the things that every poet has his own mythology, his own spectroscopic band, his own style of formation of images. But if so many images are common, then surely there will be a much bigger critical problem. Problem involves or problems involved than biographical one. How will you able to find out? How will you able to get the things done in a proper analysis of that particular structure? Fry uses an example of Mr. Auden's very brilliant essay, The Enchafed Flood. And he says that in that enchafed flood, it shows an important symbol like C, SEA. C cannot remain only in the poetry of Shelley or Keats or Coleridge. It is bound to expand into many poems by many poets. You cannot say the image of sea is restricted to Coleridge only. You cannot say the image of sea restricted to only Shelley and Keats or the romantic poets only. There are various poets who are using this, image and it can become an archetypal symbol of literature because it is used by many poets. It is not a typical one particular poet or group of poets. It becomes an archetype because this image is used by many poets at many times. So this is an archetypal symbol of literature. And if the genre had historical origin, drama has historical origin. And Fry is raising this question that why does the genre of drama emerge from medieval religion in a way so strikingly similar to the way it emerged from Greek religions century before? Why it is similar to the Greek religious, you can say, work. The medieval religion, because it is said that drama as we have seen it in the last semester when we were discussing about drama in detail, how tragedy is evolved, how comedy is evolved, how epic is being used, how it is, why it is named as tragedy, what sort of festivals it used to have, and all the religious ceremony that we used to talk. Even when we talked about Indian drama, also we say that it is also having a basis of religion. So then why the religion, medieval religion, shows that drama is showing the sort of uh, use of religion that we used to find it in Greek religion centuries before the medieval period. Now, this is the problem appearing is simply because this is a problem of structure rather than origin. Because what we are talking, everything we are talking in the form of structure. It is a form of structure that creates this particular problem. And if it is there, if the genre of drama emerged from religion, that then we have to say that there may be archetypes of genres as well as of images. Because if you talk about images, then what we find it out that he has given an example from Audun's essay called Enchant Flood, where he say that sea is not belong to only the poetry of Shelley, Keats or Coleridge. So many poets use that image. Sorry. If there are archetypal, there are archetypal, because the example of drama he has given in front of us. That criticism cannot be systematic. This is what Fry is pointing out. Criticism cannot be systematic unless there is a quality in literature which enables it to be so. You cannot expect it because both of the things are related with each other. You cannot remove one from another. If criticism cannot be systematic, if there is no quality in literature which enables it to do so, an order of words corresponding to the order of nature in natural sciences. If you look at science, the word corresponds to the order, and the order is both similar in both the cases. The one which is to applied and the one which is applied from. Now, if you are considering criticism as a science, you have to understand that there should be a correspondence link between the literature and the words used there and the genre which you are applying for. An archetype should be not only a unifying category of criticism, but itself a part of a total form. And it should lead us at once to the question of what of total form of criticism a literature can see. You have to find it out. What happens that we are not at all simply trying to correlate these things with each other. Our survey of critical techniques has taken us as far as to the literary history only. If you try to have a critical survey, what we used to do, we used to have only understanding literary history. Fry has a very severe objection for that. Criticism is not correlated with literature. The sort of criticism we are studying, the sort of criticism we are looking for. The literary history Fry pointed out that literary history moves from the primitive to the sophisticated. What is the condition of this particular genre in the primitive phase and how it has been sophisticated, how it has been revised, how it has been taken care of, and how it is formulated now. And here we glimpse the possibility of seeing literature as a complication of relatively restricted and simple group of formulas than can be studied in primitive culture. Very restricted to one particular formula. The six techniques, the six things, the six constituents of drama can make a drama. We have restricted to a small group of formula only, which is also part of the primitive culture. It has not taken to a sophisticated level. We usually see literature as a complication of relatively restricted and simple groups of formula. And Fry said that if it is so, then the search for archetypes is a kind of literary anthropology. If you are searching for archetypes, it is a kind of literary anthropology which is concerned with the way that literature is informed by pre-literary categories. Literature is there in pre-literary format. What are those pre-literary categories? Fry saying those pre-literary categories such as rituals, myth, and folk tales. These are the pre-literary categories. And we need to realize what next? That the relation between these categories and literature, the relationship between these three pre-literary categories, ritual, myth, and folktale, these three things. There's a relation between these categories and literature. What he says is by no means purely one of descent. It is not coming continuously from that. We find them reappearing in the greatest classics. These things are reappearing again and again, appearing. Myth, rituals, and folk tales. They're appearing in greatest classics. In fact, there seems to be a general tendency on the part of great classics to revert them or to use them again and again. Because greatest classics have used these pre-existing or pre-literary categories, ritual, myth, and folktale. Now, this pre-literary categories, which is used frequently in greatest classics, they are trying to use it again and again. They are appearing again and again in classics. Fry says that this coincides with a feeling that we have all had, that the study of mediocre works of art, however energetic they might be, they obstinately remains a random and a peripheral form of critical experience. They are not they are not having any, you can say, profound understanding of all those things. They always remains outside. They are not part of it. They are mediocre. If there is a mediocre study of mediocre work of art, whereas profound masterpiece seems to draw us to a point at which we can see the enormous number of conveying patterns of significance in it. There are enormous number of patterns signifying that particular masterpiece. Here, we begin to wonder if we cannot see literature not as complicating itself in time, but as spread out in conceptual space from some unseen center. Because the patterns which are coming, the patterns may have some center which is not seen by most of the time. They are appearing in a conceptual space again and again from unseen center, from unseen sources. It is again and again coming, and that's why it is reverting in great classics time and again. How this process of archetypes, how this process of induction, or an inductive movement in understanding of archetypes, in getting up the process of backing up, how it is helping all those things. Fry has used various examples to make us to understand, and we'll try to understand it. We'll try to focus it in tomorrow's lecture. I hope that you understand it in a proper sense. We'll continue this discussion in tomorrow's lecture, my friends.